Hey friends, welcome back to Nikki T Live. I'm your host, Nick Taylor, and today I'm hanging out with an old coworker, Salma Alam-Naylor. I've never actually said your last name. Is that correct, how I pronounced it?
Eh, that'll do. I normally say alum, but I don't know because that's not really the Indian pronunciation of it, even though it's an Indian name. So, I mean,
Okay.
whatever.
Okay.
Hi.
Sounds good. So, how you doing today?
Good, thanks. It's dark, it's cold, it's icy, and when it's icy and below 0 degrees Celsius, I have to turn off the water in my
Oh, okay.
office. So, and I'm going to have to spend the whole week without water in my office, which means I have to go to the house if I want a cup of tea or the bathroom. So that's fun.
Okay.
And I have to traverse across my cold garden, but this is such a first world problem, so I will stop moaning about it.
Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. So do you work in a shed in the back of your house or okay.
It's pretty much a shed. It's a wooden garden room, and
Okay.
it's glorious because also I get to so I started learning the drums in September, so my
Oh
drums are in
yeah,
here
that's right.
too. So it means that they don't make a huge noise in the house. And also I can split up my working day by doing 10, 20 minutes of drum practice here and there, which is great.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool, cool. Yeah, so yeah, thanks again for taking the time out of your day. I know you're super busy and also yeah, I'm super excited to be hanging with you today for well for a few reasons, but I've been following your Twitch stream for even before when I worked at Netlify, even before that. I can't remember when you came on my radar, but like I don't know if Jason Langsdorff might have shared your stream or maybe it just popped up. I don't remember, but I always I can't always catch it because it's in the mornings. Well, it's UK time, obviously, so it's the start of my day, but I'm usually working out in the morning at that point. But I try to catch it when I can. But
You know, it's funny. I always remember. So obviously, you used to work at Dev 2, and I've been writing on Dev for many years. And I do remember when you worked there and you followed me on Dev, and I was like, ah, a member of staff on Dev is following me. So that's quite funny.
yeah, yeah, no, cool, cool.
And then when
Thanks.
you joined Netlify, I was like, oh, it's Nikki T who follows
Yeah,
me on Dev and is really cool. So yeah, that was funny.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully, it wasn't giving off stalker vibes.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
I'm
he
probably
keeps going
a
everywhere.
stalker.
Yeah, cool, cool. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so yeah, we were at Netlify together, and I always appreciated your input there as a DevRel. Like I remember, I think the last time we kind of chatted long there was I was working on the remix adapters for Netlify, and I was looking
Oh
for your
yeah.
feedback for just like the DX, because I was the one building it, so like I was too into it that like I couldn't see clearly anymore, and so I appreciate your help there. And but we both since moved on from Netlify, and you're at Sentry now. So I
Correct.
guess I have a feeling a lot of people know who you are, but for folks that might not know who you are, who are you?
I'm Salma. I'm a basic person living in the UK who happens to work for Sentry as a developer relations advocate. But I got into developer relations through starting to stream on Twitch in the pandemic because I was
Okay.
bored. And also at that point, there was like a gap in the market for front end devs on Twitch and people who weren't men. So I started streaming on Twitch and I
Yeah.
kind of got into DevRel through that, met loads of people, got my first job in DevRel at Contentful
Okay.
because I raided someone, Layla Codes It, who knew
Okay.
Stefan Udis, who worked at Contentful, because they used to work together at Twilio. And then
Okay.
turned out that Stefan needed a new DevRel, front end focused DevRel and Contentful, and that's how I got the job. So it's always about who you know, build your network, etc. And
Yeah.
then moved on to Netlify, and now I'm at Sentry. And I really like this type of work because I'm a qualified teacher as well, and this type of work marries teaching and education with tech, and I have a lot of years experience in building stuff in variety of formats in tech, and so it
Yeah.
kind of merges them both together. And my whole performing thing, like, I was a musician my whole life growing up, and I used to
Okay.
be a musical comedian as well, and so it kind of three strands of everything I did up until this point. DevRel seems to be the perfect combination.
Yeah, no, for sure. Hey, Rolisi, thanks for joining us. Um, yeah, I remember, I think you must have mentioned it during one of your talks because, like, whether it was when I was at Netlify or before, but you'd mentioned comedy and stuff. And so, like, and there seems to be a lot of musicians that gravitate towards tech. I'm kind of generalizing, but there's a lot of people
No,
I
it's
know
true.
that, and it's, I, I wouldn't classify myself as a musician, but like when I was younger, played piano, and I used to be in a handbell choir, uh, because like I'm not religious, and but my family is, and being in a bell choir was my way to get out of church because like when you're in the choir, they basically say, okay, you go in this other corner of the church, and you're
Very
basically
clever.
just hanging there with your friends, and and we traveled a bit too, which was fun, but it was interesting, but aside from that, haven't done too much with music since then. I try to pick up a bit of guitar, but it's the kind of thing you just gotta, like anything, you gotta put in the work, right? Like I'm
Very
sure.
true.
I
Yeah,
mean,
very
and
true.
hopefully you enjoy it too. But yeah, getting to what you were saying about networking, like for sure, it's super important to meet people. And funnily enough, I met your old coworker Stefan in Toronto this past
Oh,
summer, so it's really great to meet him. But but yeah, I think that I know this is not what we're talking about today, but I think something that people overlook. I've been talking about this with my coworker Becca, who's also was a teacher too, is people are all like, oh, let's network, and then I'm gonna get that job, and like that's part of it, but there's nothing that replaces putting in the time to learn something, unless you're like Neo from the Matrix, putting in that chip saying, I just learned Kung Fu. You got to put in that time. And oh, hey, thanks, Geteo. I'm having trouble.
exegete.
Exegete. Thank you. I made it sound like he's Italian, or they're Italian. Exegeteo.
Very good. I'm sure he'd love that.
But anyways, I digress. But yeah, so like, yeah, speaking of DevRel, you've been there, I think, since the fall, and I've caught a couple things. You were on the Syntax podcast. I caught that episode, which was really great. Which is, not ironic, but it's kind of funny that Syntax, or at least I think it's just Scott that's your coworker now. Wes is part of
Yeah,
it still, but I don't think he's
yeah.
an employee of Sentry. Is that right?
No, he's not. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But anyways, so that's cool. Anyways, for folks looking for some DevRel nuggets, knowledge nuggets, go definitely listen to that. Um, yeah, so we were talking, like I dropped you a message, I think, last fall, and I was like, let's see if we can get a stream together, and you're like, oh yeah, cool, let's do it. And so we're here now, and we were kind of talking before a bit about what should we do, and like, so I was mentioning, so I work at open source, and we have Sentry integrated into our app. I haven't honestly really done anything with it. I just got access to the dashboard. So um but I know you kind of had a potentially wild idea for us to do today. So I have no idea what it is, so if you want to kind of lay it out there, we could maybe just go from there and see what happens.
Well, it's not wild, but what is an
Okay.
interesting thing that you mentioned is to say, I know we've got a Sentry hooked up, but I haven't really looked at it and I don't really know, where to find things or anything. This is a really
Yeah.
common sentiment from a lot of developers. Like what I've found, I've gone out to conferences and representing Sentry, and I've spoken to developers about error monitoring and what they use and what they want from
Hmm.
it. And a lot of devs just say, I don't really care, I just want to write my code. Because and a lot of and then there's another group of devs who say, well, I don't decide what tools we use, so I just have to
Okay.
use what I'm given, and only people on call will be looking at errors in Sentry, for example. So
Okay, yeah.
it's a really interesting kind of position that I'm in as DevRel for a company like Sentry, is that part of my job is also to get people to care about
Mhm.
errors and to help them understand actually what error monitoring can bring to your tech stack and how it can help you. And I can only really draw on my experience in that everyone who watches my Twitch streams knows that my Twitch bot is unstable and terrible and would crash randomly all the time, and we wouldn't know why. And so in September, October, when I joined Sentry, I added Sentry to my Twitch bot, and I found some
Okay.
bugs that I had no idea were there. And it helped me, like finding these bugs that were annoying me for years, but I just ignored because my Twitch bot doesn't make any money, does it? And there's a big difference
Mhm.
here when you're building an app for money making or just for pleasure. There's a big difference as to whether you would want error monitoring. Anyway, but I
Yeah,
solved these
for sure.
bugs. I learned some stuff. It helped me then preempt bugs that might happen in other areas of my app as I was building them. And it kind of becomes part of your like muscle memory when you integrate something like Sentry into your apps, you find the benefit of them. You learn to harness the benefit preemptively, but also because you are finding these bugs and fixing them, you kind of don't replicate that same behavior again,
Yeah.
and you don't create bugs anymore. So at one point, like Sentry, something like Sentry could become obsolete if you are like really good at writing code and you don't really need to add any more features, and you've used Sentry enough to help educate you and fix everything.
Yeah.
But definitely when you're being a little bit more experimental, or when you are shipping things really, really quickly,
Mhm.
having that like scaffolding around monitoring in your code is, I think, like Exegete said, a heckin' game changer, because it really is. But you can't be told that it's a game
Mhm.
changer. You have to experience it for yourself, and then you can take that away and then tell everyone else that they should try it out at least to see the benefit it provides. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that you said that. And I wanted to ask you, do you know how the error monitoring in your next JS app is implemented? Do you know how it was installed? Do you know how it was set up? And if not, and is it used actively? Because if not, I would suggest reinstalling it again using the wizard. Then you
Okay.
get back end and front end monitoring, as API route monitoring and front end monitoring together.
Okay.
And or we can just see what you've got and go from there. But then if you wanted to learn how to do this like really, really quickly without me explaining it, there is a video on YouTube where you can set it up, and it's like a 50-second um, video on YouTube that shows you everything you
Okay.
need to do, and it's all CLI based, which is also really fun.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, so the app was definitely configured before I started working there because I started working at OpenSauce on September 18th, and the app a lot of stuff has changed in the app since I started working there, but I think it first got added maybe a year ago. I'd have to check the Git logs, but it's been there for a while, and I can go ahead and just share my screen here. You should be able to see this, Salma. Just let me know if you can or
Hmm.
can't.
I can see
Yeah,
it.
so all right, so let's just open up the app here and I'll just make it full screen for now. Okay, so um, I haven't looked how you configure Sentry for Next.js, but I basically looked in our code and I found what it does. So basically, it's taking the Next.js configuration and it's wrapping it with this with Sentry config, which I'm assuming takes the existing config and just injects whatever Sentry needs to do its thing. What
Hmm.
it's adding, I'm not positive, but that's essentially all I've seen in terms of Sentry in the app, and I can double check if I just look for Sentry. Yeah, there's an env file. Bum, bum,
So you did
config.
use it was added with the CLI, because I see the RC Sentry
Oh, okay.
configuration. So that's cool. It means
Okay.
that you someone logged in via the CLI and it saved like a token there for local stuff, which should have been added to the git ignore, which it probably has anyway.
Okay,
Well, it
yeah.
should have been, and it would have been, yeah.
Cool, cool. Yeah, and I see
Okay.
that there's this client config as well. I guess that's what the CLI generated as well.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And what's also very interesting to call out here is you can see the integrations. On line 21, there's an integrations inside the Sentry.init.
Okay, yeah.
And what's very exciting is that you have Sentry Replay. Do
Okay.
you know what Sentry Replay is?
I've heard about it and I can kind of guess, and also because I'm thinking of like replay.io. So I imagine it's like a kind of basically recording what happened, I guess, and I can go look at it after. And
Yes.
and it's not just like logs, right? It's like I can actually see what they did.
It's a visual, like it's literally as if you are watching someone use the app on the screen, and you can um, scrub back and forward through the video, and it shows like the
Okay.
errors and what happened at every time. And it's very interesting, actually. I don't know whether you saw. There was a tweet talking of Wes Boss. There was a tweet that he tweeted out the other week, um, and it said that there was this random error on the syntax site that they had no idea what was going on, and they could only use session replay to diagnose it, and they managed to. I think it's quite a recent tweet. Yeah, there you
Oh
go.
yeah, here.
That's it.
Okay, yeah. I'll
And
go
they
ahead
wouldn't
and
have
share
figured
that.
that out without a visual, because sometimes you get these very convoluted errors that don't really tell you much. And these are the ones that get ignored. I remember when I worked at a startup, we were building a React Native app, and we were using
Okay.
Sentry at the time. This was in 2018. And there was this one error that just kept coming and coming and coming, but we couldn't decode it. We didn't, and session replay didn't exist at this time. We just didn't know what was
Yeah.
going on. So we basically just ignored it and carried on. And, and that's what you do a lot of the time. And there's another, another issue here to talk about as well, in that uh, if you have too many alerts and you set up too many alerts and there's too many things going on, you will ignore it all. And so
Yeah.
one of the things to keep in mind about Sentry is to don't give yourself too much noise as well. And you can
Okay.
configure alerts and dashboards and those kind of things for specific scenarios and use cases. And usually in a larger scale team, you would have different teams that will manage different areas of an app, right? So there'll be a payments
Yeah.
team, there'll be a product page team, or a content team and things like that. Um, and that's very good to keep in mind when you are putting a Sentry into a very large scale app. Now, I guess,
Yeah.
do you have any errors in your Sentry dashboard yet that we can take a look at and have a look and see what Sentry captures about
Yeah.
it and how it can help you?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I just got access to the dashboard just before we went live, but there is errors. Um, so yeah, I guess just pick one at random, or like it looks like this happened 2 days ago. Here, let me zoom in a bit here.
Yeah, thanks.
Instead of zooming, I'm shrinking,
Okay,
but
yeah, cool, cool. So
yeah.
some of these look like development errors as well, which I mean, so I have Sentry added to my front end of my stream alerts, and I don't discount like development. So when
Okay.
I'm developing my React app and it's trying to auto save and then something's undefined and blah blah blah, like I get hundreds of errors when I'm developing. So it could be a
Mm-hmm.
good thing for you to have a look in your app to see whether in development you're sending things to Sentry, or is it just
Okay.
in production. So that's one thing that we could have a look at.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's go, because these use ref things and destructuring properties definitely look like
Yeah.
um, development errors, especially because you don't have any users listed on
Yeah.
the table there.
Yeah.
So if you
Like
go in,
like
and
these.
it will show you what the URL that it came from anyway. So it'll probably say, look, there we go, Nick's work laptop is the server name. And
That's
therefore that's an
funny.
error that you created in development, which we don't care about.
Yeah.
And you can prevent those by not sending Sentry errors in development.
Yeah, because I think the way it's set up is because this is so we deploy in Netlify, so we have Netlify deploy previews. So I'm guessing this is because this is a feature I'm working on right now. So I'm guessing this,
Yeah.
well, actually, this one's from my local dev because it does say
Yeah.
my laptop, but I did test it on the deployment preview as well. So those might be showing up too. So yeah, so I guess, yeah, like you were saying, so if we don't really want to report these things to Sentry, like production Sentry logs, what's the best approach for that? Like, I'm assuming there's like a not dev, or just don't set a
Yeah,
config
I
for.
think it depends on your environment and stuff. My initial instinct is just to say to have environment variables that say, like when you have like nodenv equals
Yeah,
production or nodenv equals dev, I think maybe
yeah,
set up an environment variable that you just have locally. You could even do if environment equals Nikki T's laptop, don't send, or or anything like that.
yeah,
But I am going to just look it up. Best way to not send Sentry errors in
yeah,
development, because there might be a more recommended way in terms of Sentry configuration.
yeah.
But
Because
I
to your
think it's
point,
really
yeah.
up to you.
Yeah, because essentially, like right now, I'm looking at this with Sentry config function. Like I could essentially only wrap the config if I'm not, if it's production, wrap it, otherwise don't. Um, that could definitely be
Yeah,
a thing.
so there is something I believe in sentry.init where you can do enable true or false.
Okay,
Um, rather than having to wrap the whole Sentry init in if process dot
okay,
production dot whatever. So I'm just going to look at the
yeah.
Sentry init configuration.
And the thing too is,
Uh,
Hyder Ali Punjabi is mentioning in the chat that if you set the API key to nothing, it should work, or not work, I
that
mean.
could
But
work.
and that actually does happen when, because if I do a, we're using Next.js, if I do a build, thanks for the follow, Kodo Phil. Um, if I do a next build, I actually see a message saying that um, Sentry is not configured. I'll just run it right now, but which makes me wonder, like, if it says it's not configured, why is the dev environment sending it? Or my
That's
local, I should
interesting
say.
too. Yeah, I found the docs. It's an enabled key that you can set to true or false in
Okay,
sentry.init. So
okay.
you could either base it on an environment variable or anything, or you could just set it to false when you're developing. But I think it'd be better to decide on a standard for your team as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that I can definitely chat with the team after, but you're saying in the init, so dot init.
Yeah,
Okay. So we've got a few here. So server config.
yeah.
Okay, so
And what's interesting is that you might want your server config to send dev. But what you could easily, okay, there's another way you could do this as well.
mhm.
As well as turning it on or off in dev versus production, you could also add contextual labels to your error messages. So
Yeah,
say if you want to share development errors with your team and you want to say, hey, who's getting this and who's getting this, like not just like compilation errors when you're in the middle of
yeah.
writing a function or whatever, but say you wanted to actually capture those anyway, you can then look at the environment
Mhm.
you're in and add an extra label to those errors and say like
That's
dev,
yeah.
and or
No,
you can even and then filter by those, or remove
okay.
those in your issue view. Similarly, what you can also do, a third way, is that you can create a dashboard view in Sentry that doesn't include anything from the server Nikki's work laptop. So there's
Okay,
like
yeah.
multiple ways you can do this, depending on what your team needs.
Yeah.
Like for me, for example, for me as a single person developer on like my React Twitch overlays, I don't need to send my errors to
Mhm.
my dev errors to Sentry whatsoever. It's
Yeah.
just like using up my error quota, because that's another thing to bear in mind as well, right? Depending
Yeah.
on what plan you're on, you
Mhm.
probably don't want to send development errors because they increase your errors in according to your quota, and then you might not have enough errors left for production
Okay.
to get the real errors. So
Yeah.
there's
Uh,
multiple ways to do it.
yeah. I actually like the idea of the label because because we have, for example, we have the production app. So like if I just go to app.opensource, but we also have a beta site, and it's actually, so like we put it to beta first, like basically the way we deploy is anytime anything gets merged, it merges to our beta branch, which is our, we consider this our main branch, and that gets automatically deployed. So it's actually a good idea, I think, to have the label beta, because then we can, because I think we do want to surface those errors, but we do just want to know like a beta dashboard versus a production dashboard, I guess.
So I would probably do this based on environment variable. So you can
Yeah,
add based on the environment variable that you assign on to that staging branch in Netlify, because you can have contextual variables in Netlify.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so have your, and then what you could do is add a custom tag to every error that tells you your environment if you're on production or beta based on the environment variable that it finds. I
yeah.
do something similar to this
Whoops, wrong.
as well, actually, on one of my apps. So
I,
let's maybe write a list of the things we can implement and work
okay,
through them, because we've talked about a lot already.
yeah. I'm just gonna link it to Netlify because I think I did a git clean. Uh, I'm just gonna connect it, uh, and then I'm just gonna list off the environment variables, not the actual values, but
Yeah.
um, just because I'm pretty sure we use the Netlify context for beta. I have to double check that though, because I didn't set up all of this. Okay, so if we do NTL and if for folks who happen to deploy to Netlify, you can run NTL or Netlify env:\list, and this will just give you a list of the environment variables. So we have node version, Sentry. Okay, so those are there. Those aren't helpful for this. Well, the node version could be. Um,
Are there
so we
more
could,
above?
oh yeah, you could be right. Very good point. Yes, you're right. Okay, so we
Okay.
got, there's the, well, the public API URL. No, that's next. That's for our
I don't want that.
API, public. Yeah, I don't think there's anything in here, but I just want to check because when you go to, when you're doing a deployment, you can get the Netlify context. Like if I go to,
Yes, you can.
where is
Rather
it?
than setting an environment variable, you can actually get
Yeah,
it from the API, can't you?
yeah. So if we go to site configuration, not the environment variables, but there's the scope, context. That's what I'm looking for. So we have production. Okay, that's not it.
You can
Um,
get just like netlify.context.scope or something, can't you? Get
yeah,
netlify
it's
scope.
escaping me. Like when you do a build, you get access to other variables. Yeah,
Determining
netlify.
execution scope available.
Okay, yeah, environment variables, blah blah blah. Okay, API. No. Where is it? Yeah, so value per deploy context. Okay, so we could, there's deploy previews for sure. Local development. Okay, you can also have branch. I guess we could detect based on the branch too, maybe. But but at the end of the day, basically some unique identifier to say this is beta. So like,
Because as well, so we have in Netlify the four predefined deploy context: production, deploy, preview, branch, deploy, dev. You can even
yeah,
use that in dev when you're running with the Netlify CLI
yeah, that's
to
true.
then not send, so only send errors
For
on
production
for
or deploy.
production or deploy preview. I mean,
Yeah.
even branch deploy as well. So maybe just like not dev when it's the net. Can you get those contexts on the Netlify CLI? You should be able to, shouldn't you?
You can. I'm just trying to remember the the commands, which is kind of funny, but uh NTL context, this is not gonna work probably, but Yeah, okay. No. Okay, wait. NTL help. Okay. Integration, functions, deploy, builds, blob. Okay, you can check if it, oh no, that's, oh yeah. And no, that's not helpful. Maybe environment can help with the context too. I'm trying to
It's
remember.
not telling me on the
Import list set.
docs.
I'm trying trying to remember where you get it because I know there's specific environment variables that get injected when you do a deployment,
Mm.
including like the actual URL, the Netlify deploy prime URL.
See,
But
I'm not
yeah.
sure you can get those values in code because they only seem to be available in the netlify.toml.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, because the thing is, trying to think. Uh, I guess I guess one way to do it is, well, I'll try and figure it out. We don't have to dwell on it too much for now. Like we can just
Hmm.
basically I'll make an environment variable and
Yeah,
we
let's
can
do
just,
that.
so all right. So let's see here. Okay, let's just do it for funsies. I'll put it in a deployment branch. So I'll just add the environment variable until set, or actually
Oh,
what is,
V Prevails is here saying, "What are you trying to find?" V Prevail. I don't know who. I don't think you know who V Prevails is, but she's
I
like that.
don't.
Fine. Uh,
Oh, okay. Hey, V
you
prevails.
will know her. And we are trying to find out V Prevails if we can access the context, which is like dev, production, branch deploy, or preview in code and not just in the Netlify TOML, but I can't
Yeah,
find that in the documentation. But
it's
because I'm
escaping
not
me.
sure we can, I'm not sure we can access it in code. No, so
Yeah,
it's not an environment variable that we would define for us. But thank you so much for the investigation. Let's carry on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, no, appreciate it. Yeah, yeah. Let's just go forward with like we'll just make up one for now, and it's, again, it's an implementation detail. So,
Yeah, yeah, it
um,
is. Yeah.
you know what? I've got a new branch here, so I'm just gonna say process.env uh is beta. I don't know. Let's see. You know what? I'll just add it to the environment variables for now, because it will only, yeah.
Let's do something before we do your beta tag.
Okay.
Let's turn Sentry off for development.
Okay, yeah, good call, good call.
So add an environment variable that is something like is dev true.
Yeah, well, that I think we can get from node env.
Have you got
Uh,
that?
oh, whoops. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, that I do have.
Hey, baffled. Yes, I'm allowed to say that for development, so you can avoid compilation errors and undefined variables
Yeah. Oh, it's node
in
version.
your
Never mind.
Sentry dashboard.
Yeah.
You see,
When
yes,
we build, yeah.
thank you, Hader, but that is in the Netlify TOML, and I want to see if we can see that's the React. Oh, okay, I see what you did there. Right, so there is a way to do that. No, oh, what? Command equals. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. Okay, I need
There
to read
should
it. We
be.
can do this, but this is not Netlify configuration isn't really the point. But thank you for that. But V
Yeah.
Prevail says yes, indeed. So maybe should we just do it because it's more like realistic. So I'll tell you how to do it.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Um, the recommended way to do this is to create the variables in line before your project's build command. For example, to access Netlify's context variable in your Create React app site,
Yeah.
update the build command in the
Okay.
Netlify TOML to set a random environment variable to $context before running the build. So you'd
Okay.
have in your build, so just square brackets build somewhere
Yeah,
in
yeah,
your
up here.
toml.
I know why we don't have build in the site, but that's another
Yeah,
thing. But we can do it for now in this.
yeah.
It's okay, yeah.
Just
So
do
command.
command equals, I guess we could just do context in
Yeah.
uppercase equals dollar uppercase context, and then you'd have to have
Okay.
your build command after that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
Okay.
basically that'll inject context into the build and it'll be accessible through process.env. Okay.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct for that.
So let's do that. And I think what we could do is
Hader
I'm
says we
just
need a prefix, but I don't think we need a prefix. You probably need a prefix for React, especially because all docs need all React apps need a prefix, but the others don't. The next
oh
one you'll need
yeah,
next
there
public if you want
yeah,
it
if
to
you
be
want them
available on the
public.
client.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it's yeah, public underscore, where is it? P.env. There we go. Next public.
Yeah, thanks for that
Cool.
heads up. Forgot about that.
Yeah. All right. So
Because you will need
there
it in the front
and
end as well as the server.
yeah, no, that's a good call. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do a throw. Like the build's gonna fail right away, but I just want to get the context, so that should output it. So like if I run npm run build,
Do you need process.env before that?
oh yeah, thank you. Process.env and uh, okay, there's that. And then if we do ntl dev, for example,
You should
and
just print out
actually,
dev.
let me put a dev. There should be a dev command. Oh yeah, okay. So let me just add this to the dev context as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Command next dev. There. Okay, cool. It seems okay. Cool. All right, let's see what this does. I'm expecting it to throw right away because it's gonna load the config for Next.js and then die.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, so it's injecting the variables. It's installing the latest plugin, I guess. Just give this a second. This has nothing to do with Sentry, by the way, for folks checking it out. So, anyways, I digress. But yeah, just to kind of recap, because we've been talking about it a lot, we're just basically creating an environment variable so we can turn it on or off. And I don't know why this is hanging so long on
But
this, but
I think
okay.
despite this currently having nothing to do with Sentry, I think it's a very valid kind of thing. I said at the beginning, you need to be able to put this in a real world context rather than just saying, "Hey, monitor your errors." Like this is
Yeah,
how in a real world when you're deploying something, you've got CI/CD, you've got a team, you've got multiple environments and branches and deploy previews. I think this is very kind of useful information actually.
yeah. Okay, so
Please
why?
verify.
Okay, so it didn't like the injected context. Maybe, maybe if I do a deployment, just to see. That's going to be a deployment preview, just making sure I'm not overriding prod. Okay, so this should fail because I throw an error right away.
Yeah, there you go. There's the
So let's
error.
see, error. Okay, in build. Okay,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
because you
that.
said that the reason why you don't use build in toml is that there's a reason. So it might be
Oh
that
yeah, yeah.
npm run build is failing.
No, the only reason we're not using it, because like when I started here, like because we're using Netlify Edge functions, I was like, you need to configure Netlify if you want to, do dev and all that and stuff. But the problem is we deploy Storybook as well, and it's configured in the UI. So basically, I have a to do to convert it into an actual mono repo, and then this won't be an issue.
Mm.
But uh, I'm only aware of all that because it's like some of the last work that was happening when I was there. But that's the only reason why. But I'm just want to see the actual error. Like, where is it? Let me put a big ah in it instead. Like, uh, dev.
Classic pro debugging.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's do this again. Okay, it goes boom. Fine. Okay, so it says
There
it's
it
dev.
is. Dev.
Okay,
Sweet.
so it's good.
Okay.
All right.
So what we can then do is in sentry.init, wherever there is
Yeah.
sentry.init, we can pass in the enabled key and the value can be whether or not the context doesn't equal dev.
Okay, gotcha. All right, cool. So here, let's just make this a bit bigger, not smaller. What's going
Baffled
on?
loves putting their stream of consciousness into log messages.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Okay. So, yeah, so you were saying we just need to check the process.env in the init at what point
Yep.
or
Any point, then they're not order sensitive. So you can just right at the top, you can even just put enabled
oh, okay.
here. Yep. Yep. Enabled, and
Okay,
then
gotcha,
whether or
gotcha.
not. There you go.
Okay,
Thanks,
even that's
Copilot.
probably better production. That would make sense, but just for the what we're doing right now, that sounds good, I guess.
If you want it on branch deploys and
Oh, yeah,
deploy
yeah.
previews, just do not equals dev.
Yeah, true.
And it's also next public context, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Da-da-da-da. You weren't smart enough there, Copilot.
That's horrendous.
Okay, not equal to dev. All right, cool. And let's
Cool.
just do that in the other ones. Okay, there. And the server as well. Okay, so that's good. Okay, now let's get rid of that.
Cool. So now you have no noisy development errors for things that are in progress, which means that you are not going to be using up your Sentry quota on lots of nonsense and noise. And that really
Yeah,
allows you to focus down on actually the errors that are causing problems for the people who are using your site, which is a huge benefit, I think. And we should test this. We should run an error in the front end or something and check that it doesn't
okay.
come through in dev. And we can do
Yeah,
that
sounds
really
good.
easily.
Cool. Yeah, all right, let me just start up the app. Bring this over here. Oh, I'm gonna have to run NTL dev actually. Sorry. Um, Also, for all the cool kids out there, don't type Netlify for the CLI. Just use NTL. That's where it's at.
And if you've seen my FYI Friday series, you'll know that that's one of the first things I tell you to do.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the NTL dev doesn't like the dollar context. It seems to work during a deployment, but not during development. So you know what?
Interesting.
For the time being, I'm just so we can move forward here, I'm just gonna say dev.
Yes,
And
good idea.
we'll just get moving here. So NTL dev. Let's close the sidebar. Let's close. Okay, now what's it not liking? Oh, sorry, that's the build command. We need to do it on the dev.
I mean, and that
Okay,
makes sense to be dev there anyway, doesn't it? You could technically hard code that and not have a problem.
that's true. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, well played, well played. You've won this round. You've won this round, Salma. You've won this round. Oh,
Oh no, now what? It
now
just
what?
doesn't like it
Okay.
at all.
Let's see here. NTL dev, blah blah blah.
Hello, Todd.
Hey Todd. Hey Todd, what's up? I'll throw out a lobster for you there. Cool. Next public context. Yeah, I just switched that.
I did
So
you
let's
I
see.
don't think you saved the TOML. Did you save the TOML?
Uh, I have uh, I have mine set up so as soon as I lose focus, it saves. But
Uh-huh.
next public context equals dev. Next dev. Yeah, that looks good. You know what? Let's just do this. And to your point before, though, you are totally right. Like configuring it is one thing, but like when you're in the real world environment, it's a lot of other things that come with it. And this is something I talk about, like for end-to-end testing. Like it takes a while to write an end-to-end test, even if you're really good at them, but it's the whole like set it up with the CI CD pipeline, because like anybody can just say like, okay, I installed Playwright and run it. But it's
Yep.
not the same thing, and that's on. I'm just bringing that up because it's on my to do for the for the app. But
And you're
uh,
putting it off, yeah.
yeah, yeah, got a few other things going on. So okay, so dev, let's put it back here. Next public context. Okay, if it doesn't like this, I just did a git reset. So
And if this doesn't work, you could just add it to an M file.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Because we already have that. Cool.
And then you can use
Git
contextual environment variables anyway. I mean, it's nice to be able to use the context without adding extra M files and vars, but it does feel like this is going to be the quickest way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We don't want this stream to be all about just like, okay, we finally got an environment variable loaded. So
Yeah.
which I guess is could be a win, but you know what? And then I don't even need to run NTL dev. I'm just gonna go raw. Okay, so we're good here. Let's reload here. Okay, it's just still building. Okay. Now what's it not liking? We're not
Looks like
having
some
any fun
internal
here.
node module stuff.
Oh, it's loading. Next public superbase and next one care variables. Okay, here, give me 1 sec. I'm just gonna switch this to just you and me chatting. And
Okay.
I clearly did something wrong in the .env file, and I don't really want it. Well, mind you, this is actually in the repo, so it shouldn't really matter. But
I
toggle
will
auto.
vamp while you deal with that. I can now see your key. That should be fine. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that looks totally fine. Okay, let's reload that. I'll just come back because actually
Hide your
none of these
keys.
no, it's all good. These are like literally in the repo. It's a
Ah,
copy.
okay.
I'm pretty sure. Uh, yeah. Okay. Next public superbase. Uh, yeah, they're there. What is going on? Jesus. Okay.
Sorry, baffled's just trolling.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's all good. Here.
Pretty
Uh,
sure.
yeah,
It is the worst streaming and working with environment variables. I have doxed
yeah,
myself way too many times. Everyone knows that. Horrendous.
yeah. No, it is. Yeah. Why is it not
Hello,
liking it?
Fuzzy. I'm just vamping
Hey, what's
while
going on, Fuzzy?
Nikki debugs. See you soon, V prevails.
Okay, I'm gonna just start it without that environment variable, and okay, that's all good. Okay, it's loading now, I think. It still doesn't like it. What is going on? Oh
I
my
can't
God.
see what the error says from here.
Yeah, yeah. Let me just cloak this. Yeah. It's just if I zoom in, it's just basically saying the Supabase URL and next public Supabase anon keys are required, and they're already there. So you know what? I'm gonna start fresh because git reset hard head npm install. Let's undo these things.
Hader, there is an extension that blurs your M file while you're streaming. It's called Cloak. I used to use
Yeah,
it, but it stopped working. It stopped working on
yeah,
my VS Code. Don't know why. Can't work it out.
yeah,
But mainly, like I try to avoid having environment variable files anyway, just by because everything I deploy
yeah,
is to Netlify anyway, and I just use the Netlify CLI, so it doesn't.
yeah,
It means
exactly.
I don't need
These
it.
are like just development ones. But speaking of the cloak, I used to use cloak all the time as well. and I switched to .env has a cloaking tool for it. Like I have it on here right now, so I can say toggle,
Oh.
and then
Oh,
yeah, it.
I need to
I'll tell you exactly which one it is, but if you look for uh, .env,
just
which
getting
one
some
is it?
tips here.
Yeah, it's one of the. Oh yeah, it's this one I have. I'm using .env strip. There's other ones you can get. Like there's a one that comes with a vault and stuff, but I think that's like if you need some secrets that you pay for, like
Okay,
storage and stuff. But just
cool.
the bare bones .env works. But yeah, these
Ah, it's
environment variables,
beautiful.
yeah, it works pretty well.
Ah, it's so much better than Cloak that you have to turn it on and off.
Yeah, no,
Cloak
totally.
can go away. Very
Okay,
nice. Very good. Thank you.
so
Good hot
you know
tip.
what? All right, so I'm just gonna add next public context equals dev again. Let's just hope this works this time. If it complains, the only thing I did differently is I put it at the end of the .env file, but
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that, and it sounds ludicrous, really.
yeah, it's kind of like some other tips I have. Like I have no technical explanation, but sometimes just doing a git clean of your repo just makes things work again, and it's happened to me a ton of times. And I
Hmm.
always do that. Okay, so it's loaded now. There's actually some errors, but that I know what that is, I believe. Okay, so let's introduce an error here. So
So there's a bunch of errors. So right, let's first introduce an error without that enabled flag. So just comment that line out in the init in maybe just the client one, and then watch
yeah,
the error go in and see what nonsense it is to have a development error like that, and then
yeah,
we can switch it back on and see no errors go into development into
okay,
Sentry.
sounds good. All right, so this is the client one. Do do. Okay, so let's just I'm assuming it's enabled by default if you don't specify. Okay, so
Yes,
this is
it is. Yes.
reloading. Okay, so we have it enabled now. So let's just go to a list, my famous testimony list, and we're gonna go into list. Okay, yeah,
Testeroni
or
sounds like an
list.
Italian dish.
Yeah, it's they don't I don't think you have these commercials in the UK, but in North America, there's this pizza brand called Delicio, and the tagline is always it's not delivery, it's Delicio, because it's so good, but it's okay. But anyways, I digress. Okay, lists layouts. Okay, so we're gonna literally just throw an error here, like throw new error.
Or you
Sentry
could
is
do
dope.
a Sentry capture exception, which
Okay,
will, I mean, it'll do the same thing, but I just wanted to show you the syntax to provide,
okay.
um, to be very particular about saying, I want to send this to Sentry.
How do you where's that?
It's a capital S
Okay, okay,
dot
yeah,
capture exception, and I'm wondering why it's not picking it up.
yeah.
It might
Let's see.
be that I thought with the whole config, it would have been available everywhere. So let me just check something.
Okay, we just have the Sentry Next.js package, but I know, let's see where else we're using it. Sentry
See, because what's
cat.
interesting is when I last ran the wizard,
Oh,
it
okay, here it is.
didn't just. Did you find it?
Yeah, it's just a import.
Yeah, you have to
So
import it.
here,
Yeah,
there we go. All right, that should do it. Okay, so now we have Sentry, and if
and
I
then you
should
can
get,
do open brackets, and then it's literally you can just put a string in there, and often you would
okay.
send you can just you don't need to do throw a new error in there. You can just put a string, and usually what you would
Oh,
do is
okay.
if you were doing like a try catch, you would usually put the error from the failed like fetch response or
Okay, okay,
something in there. So you can write anything
okay.
in there.
Oopsie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, so
So
that's
now
on
you
the
can run that
list.
page
Yeah.
and that will get sent.
Yeah. Okay, so if I go to here, this should, is it not
See,
failing?
it
Let me
won't
check.
that won't block the
Oh
page.
yeah, 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 yeah. I didn't kill anything.
So you'll probably
Okay.
just see it in Sentry now. And you can check the network tab to see if things get sent to Sentry as well, which is quite a useful way to debug things sometimes.
Yeah. So if we check here, image URL. No.
You might need to refresh the page because it would have happened straight away.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And if you maybe filter by
X. Yeah.
Sentry,
Fetch. Yeah. Oh yeah. Sentry. Yeah. Good call. Let's remove this. Right. All Sentry. Okay. I don't. I want to make sure I'm hitting the right page because I have a feeling I'm not.
okay.
Okay. Activity. That page I know for sure. So let's do this. Okay. Just bear with me here. Activity list. Yes. Okay. So let's do this on the client side. So here. Okay. And let's get server side props. We want it in here. Okay. Let children, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's just pop it in here.
Do you
Okay.
import Sentry
Why
at the
is it?
top?
I did. Oh, I know. Oh, this is a thing in the app. It's not. Uh, I've got to find out what rule is doing this, but there's something that
I
like as
know.
soon as you're not using the import, it
Yeah, I hate it
it
so much.
removes it. Import. Oh, whoops, sorry, I did that in
Star a
reverse.
Sentry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've got some dyslexic stuff going on here. All right, okay, so there we go. Let's go to the activity page. Okay, I don't need to be debugging right now. Sorry, that was from prior art. Okay, so let's look in the network tab. Nothing still. I want to make sure that that's actually running. Okay, it's there. So let's reload the page.
That says if no, is that in the right branch? It says if no repo ID is set or something. I just probably put
It's
this like right at the bottom in like a use effect or
yeah,
something rather than.
yeah. It's definitely running it because I'm debugging it right now.
Oh, you're
So
right there. Okay, cool. Well, I mean,
okay,
let's
so
just check in Sentry to see if it's there.
yeah, I think it's the reason why it's not okay. We caused some kind of error. Good. Okay, let's go to Sentry like you said.
And you'll
Okay,
get that
so
hydration error as well in Sentry as well.
okay. So
Okay,
okay,
there we
so we got
go.
it
Got
right
all your
here.
oopsies.
Okay. All right, perfect. So that was, and I guess the question I have here is so like well, one, it's logging, which is great. That's I was expecting it to, but what was the reason you were saying to use Sentry explicitly? This is like kind of when you know of an error and you just want to log it? Like,
So let's compare it to throwing a new error oopsie and
mm-hmm,
see how they, because I actually don't know the answer to this, but for me, seeing sentry.capture exception in the code, I am
yeah,
specifically sending that to Sentry because I want to capture it intentionally.
yeah,
Now, Sentry picks up all your other errors that randomly happen, even if you don't throw them or even if they come from, chained down API calls and things like that. But it's more of a
yeah,
purposeful, I want Sentry to know about this and I want the team and me to know about this and be alerted by it
mm-hmm,
when something goes wrong here. And
okay,
it's intentional.
okay,
So,
so
right. So now have a look in
yeah,
Sentry to see what that looks like compared to the first one.
okay,
So you see how you
so
got your oopsie.
yeah,
I don't know, actually. I think I don't even think that throw new error actually did anything because something else
Yeah.
went wrong before it.
Oh,
Refresh
okay,
there.
so yeah, you're right. Maybe something else crashed before. So list activity. Okay, this is definitely coming from there. And I wonder if, oh, you know what it is? It could be because throwing the, I'll put it in a use effect because the problem is in this
Yeah,
page,
yeah,
it's
that's
running it
it. That's
server
it.
side and that
Yeah,
crashes it. And then
yeah.
so,
And here is
uh,
like a perfect example of a terrible error
yeah.
because it's just random and it's broken all the code below it, and we don't actually know what's gone wrong here. Again, which is a case for being intentional about what you send to Sentry and working from there, really.
Oh, whoops. Okay, it actually isn't a React component. That's my bad. That's a function. So let's go to the JSX. Um, okay, yeah, list activity page. That makes more sense. Okay, cool. Um, okay, lots of code here, but okay, let's
And
throw
Hader
in the
brings up
use
a
effect.
good point. And Hader says, I want Sentry to know about something, but not the running application. Now, it won't necessarily prevent the running application from like crashing and things like that, because sometimes things will crash. It's just like a very self documenting way to say that I am intentionally sending this to Sentry, which I think is very important in this case.
Yeah. Well, I think to your point where you're saying like, because obviously there's like Sentry, like the error monitoring will pick up, like you said, like stuff that I'm not even aware of, but there could be valid cases, like you're saying, like where I want to actually explicitly do it because like I know it's gonna throw this error, but I still want to log it because like maybe I want to see like how often is it happening that they can't complete their shopping cart or something or
And furthermore, you can add then when you do capture an exception specifically for Sentry using the API and the SDKs, then you can add custom tags. You can time certain things and
okay,
add custom labels if you wanted to time when something started or ended and things like that. And so when you have that context of a Sentry exception, you can add further information to it as well. And you can't do that
okay.
with just throwing a new error.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna throw the error, just see what it looks like. And then what I'm gonna do is in that same use effect, I'm gonna do a try. I'm gonna throw in the try, and in the catch, I'm gonna do the Sentry exception again. And we can look at adding some labels and other metadata like you were mentioning, just to mix things up a bit. Because this is definitely super relevant to my work in terms of the monitoring. Because like we're a small team, so like we need to be filtering out the noise. So let's
And when we do
reload
see
this.
that error in Sentry, I want to check in Sentry whether you've done something that's also very useful that helps you marry your
Okay.
code with the error as well.
Okay. So that particular use effect error is causing an error. I don't, it shouldn't be causing the hydration error, but let's just go to the issues and see.
Well, anything
Uh,
causes a hydration error these days, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, boom. Cool. All right,
I
let's
almost
just
pressed my laugh button because that's what I would have done if I said that on my stream.
okay, so let's do the Sentry capture exception. And so in this case, I can just do like e dot message, or should I just be passing in the whole
You can just
error?
pass in E. I believe. I mean, it depends. I don't know what the error will come out as, but
Okay.
I actually don't know.
Oh, okay. Okay, this is actually super helpful. This is Copilot that replaced this, but
I
let me
don't
know
know
if
whether that's correct
okay. Because
because I think you have to specify tags
okay.
separately. So Copilot can just be ignored right now. So tags, you usually do a sentry.set tag for like
Okay.
a bit of a scope. And so you would do sentry.set tag right before sentry.capture exception, I
Oh, okay,
think.
okay. So Sentry dot tag add tag set tag or set tags.
Because
Okay.
and Sentry, I actually had a bit of a work little a session with one of the SDK main developer maintainers, and they were teaching me how difficult it is, but how important it is to maintain scope. So you can say sentry.set tag followed by sentry.capture exception, and magically the tag that you set will be in that scope of that exception, and
Okay.
it doesn't need to be like what Copilot suggests, the wrong code that Copilot gives you.
Okay. This is super handy because like there's the first part we were talking about, which is like dev environment versus production, but also classifying like we have like a list feature, so like I can tag all this as this is an error for list pages, and so like there's all this classification I actually wasn't aware of you could do. So let's
You
run
can
this
do
again.
anything, and then you can use those custom tags in dashboards that you want to create if you wanted to just look at a particular part of the app or particular functionality. Very
Okay.
useful.
Now, oh,
I think because the error's throwing, you're not getting to the catch.
no, for some reason it was showing is resolved in terms of the
Oh,
projects. So if I search for events now, there we go. No, I still don't see it. Interesting.
I think
It,
it's because you're
I,
throwing and it's stopping.
yeah, but the weird thing is like the use effect the use effect will run, it'll try the error, it will throw, and then we catch it immediately. So I'm not sure
Oh, I see what you
why
mean. Yeah. Yeah.
that's, but that's, I think there's other things going on in the app that are messing up because of this, but I don't see how that is uh if it's in a try catch, but anyways, I'll worry about why my app's not doing what it's doing, but um let's just do this, and I just want to log the error. So
I mean, there are some
oopsie.
easier ways to do this rather than in use effect. I mean, there's if I put you a link in the chat, there is
Okay,
a way you can just show the chat. It's
you know
a
what,
lot easier.
yeah, which chat did you drop it in, because I don't see it in the,
Twitch,
oh
the
yeah,
Twitch
okay, sorry,
chat.
yeah, why did it not pop up? Okay,
Rather than
yeah,
messing around with use effect and all sorts of life cycle methods, just create a button
yeah,
with a
gotcha.
thing on it.
Keep it simple. All right, let's get rid of that. Cool, cool. Where's my JSX? Okay, there's some JSX. Perfect. List page layout. Okay, let's just add a button in here, or we'll put it in the div, just so I don't have to do that. And okay, and then
Okay,
here,
so that's directly from the documentation is actually giving you throw new error because it is legitimate. It's the way you can do it.
okay.
And so we can throw that with the button click and then we can compare how it looks. There it is. It's above the white thing. It doesn't look like a button because you're probably using Tailwind that removes
Oh
all
yeah,
button
yeah,
thing.
yeah. It's totally that. Yeah, yeah. That that's
That
something
just
I
for some
found.
reason removes browser defaults.
Yeah,
Anyway, rant over.
yeah. No, that's a whole other side note. I do find Tailwind useful, but there is some oddities that like. Anyways, okay, so
Because you
that
and me both, we were both looking for a grey browser default button, and it
yeah.
was not there. Anyway,
Okay,
so
so
let's
I
go and
threw a
see what that
few
looks
errors
like.
here. Okay, so this should show up. Why is it? Is there something?
Is there something that you're filtering on? Because it says
All
click on
environments.
unresolved, top left, underneath issues, click on unresolved.
Okay, is
See, that
unresolved.
was
Is
59
it
seconds ago. So I think that's being like there's some other down the road things are being
okay?
triggered, I think, because there's some actual legitimate errors that are happening here as well,
Okay, okay. So
potentially.
Sentry is doing its job, but okay, let's do this. Let's go to the edit page maybe. I might just end up making a separate page, honestly. Let's
This is also
go
the
and
problem when you're trying to set up something that's already so big. We are uncovering things potentially that we wouldn't have known about before. And I would actually for this reason, I would. It sounds a bit weird, and I normally say don't use something until you need to use it. But if you think you're going to need something like Sentry, I would opt for setting it up as early as possible and
Yeah,
making some kind of system as early as possible so that it can grow with you rather than, oh no, now I'm adding Sentry to this really old legacy app and I'm getting a million errors all the time because I didn't know about them before. And
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah, totally.
it's kind of a chicken egg situation.
All right, so we got buttons here, gap, 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 edit list, sure. All right, and you know what? I'm gonna make it our button component just so it pops up, um, just cause. Yeah, there we go. Variant default, sure. Okay, this should reload. What did I? Okay, there it is, down here. Okay, so we didn't get any errors loading the page, which is good. And I'm just gonna go to the console to make sure it's actually throwing. Yeah, it is. Okay, so it threw an
Cool.
error.
Excellent.
All right, so now, okay, there's got to be a filtering thing because it definitely.
I'm also wondering whether I don't know what plan you're on, and I'm wondering whether it won't accept any more right now because we've been triggering
Oh,
quite a few.
okay.
Because I
Is there a
came
way
across
to?
this problem when I was the only way you can do is you can go to the network tab and see if you're getting a 403 from Sentry when you click that button.
Okay, okay, yeah. Let's check that.
Because I came across
Uh,
this problem when I was making a demo video once, and I was on a free plan on purpose, and I kept it just wasn't showing up for me.
okay, so let's do Sentry.
So if you look in the network tab,
Oh yeah, sorry, network. Sorry. Okay, there. Okay, so it seems to be sending some stuff. Is this Sentry stuff? No, localhost. Oh, it's probably because it has Sentry in the word, maybe? I don't know. It's next original stack frame. I think these are just Next.js
they're all
errors, but
200s.
oh, it's because it's got Sentry in it. That's why.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's do this and XHR. I don't see any calls to Sentry. There's post hog, which we use for something else. Um, It is. I mean, it is because we saw errors log before, so I feel like you could be right. Like maybe it's just not sending, but I don't know why we're not seeing it in there. Is there a? Do you know how to check which plan we have? Is it? I
Be in
have
your
no idea.
settings, in the
Team.
organization settings.
Okay. Early adopter. No. Blah blah. Membership.
I
I
actually
think
don't
this
know.
is. This is actually just for me, I guess. Okay, they can only be edited by users. Interesting. Let's try and throw with Sentry again there. Sentry dot. I gotta import this again. I really gotta figure out what that plugin is that strips that because it doesn't do it on my other projects, and it drives me
I think it might be
bonkers.
a
Like,
prettier config, maybe an ESLint thing. I
okay,
came across that once and I cannot remember what the problem is.
what was the
Capture
Sentry?
exception.
Oh, thank you. Capture exception. Okay, so let's do that. Because it is possible that maybe something's not configured right in our app as well, because I haven't looked at this at all. So let's
Mm.
reload this and throw the error. Okay, it's not throwing an error now because it's just doing the thing
Yeah,
straight
it's
to
just capturing.
Sentry. Okay, let's just go refresh and see. Bum. I think you might be right about the plan potentially.
Yeah, I think that it just mimics what I've seen because all of these things should have been sent
Yeah,
Uh,
and they were sending them before because we saw
yeah,
before.
yeah,
Okay. All right. So that's I'll have to talk to B Dougie and say, hey, we need a we need a bigger plan
yeah.
maybe.
But then again,
Okay.
this is this, you've had a lot of development errors over the last, however long, because we've seen them, like all those events, and there are no users
Yeah.
assigned to them, so they're not real users, they're local development, and they've taken up your plan
Yeah.
potentially. So another case for only triggering things when
Yeah.
when you have when you're in production with for real users. Because I also wanted to just,
Yeah.
if you go into the code, into one of the errors, I wanted to see if you had something hooked up that's very, very useful. Can we
Okay.
scroll down a little bit? So I don't think you've done this, but you can connect this to your GitHub repo, like your code repo. And
Okay.
I don't know whether you've configured source maps. So if you configure source maps and hook it up to um, your repo, you can then see in the issue the actual lines of code that this problem was happening on.
Okay. Oh, it'll log the exception in GitHub, you mean? Through a GitHub
No, no,
app
no.
or something?
It'll just show if you upload source maps, if you configure
Okay.
source maps in Next.js, it will show you the actual lines of code. So if
Yeah.
you can run a CLI command for that,
Okay.
Next.js source maps.
Yeah, because I think I mean, you get source maps in development mode, but I don't think it's automatic for production. Uh, let's
But what's
see
interesting
here.
is those errors that were sent uh, don't have any code with them. Or it does say Sentry Next.js will generate and upload source maps automatically.
Okay.
Um,
This here, though, is well, this is clearly my dev machine, this error, but
but it should still have the
yeah,
source map
because
there.
yeah, because all we see here, this is the call stack of where it's like what went
Oh, it's
wrong,
inside
but
knowing models, isn't it?
oh yeah, yeah,
And
okay,
I'll show
and
you.
that
Go on.
oh no, I was gonna say that makes sense that there's no source maps because it's the React uh
Yeah,
uh production version. That's why we don't see
yeah.
them.
So actually, if you go back to that error that we first did, the oopsie one.
Yeah.
If you look for oopsie, there
Okay.
it is. That does not either. So it should. So if you expand that browser page a bit more,
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
to the right, so
Yeah.
there's some extra metadata in here, and there should be something that says like connect to GitHub or something, uh, like
Hmm.
maybe near the
Uh,
top.
Track issue with Jira GitHub. Okay.
No, it's not the tracking. It's
Oh,
although maybe that would work actually. Yeah, that would work because it's got source code management or something like that. So yeah,
okay.
install the GitHub integration.
Okay. Add installation, configure. So read access. Okay. I'm assuming this is all okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So it was added to the app repo now, which is the main app that we're looking at right now. Okay. So, okay. So now with that, you were saying,
So that should give you some extra information on the issue view itself, allowing you to create like an issue in GitHub around it. If you go back to the oopsie one,
oh yeah,
that might
sorry.
be a bit more helpful.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you mean. You can like the flow as me as like the dev, like, okay, something crashed, I come
Yes,
here,
yes.
I'm like,
You can
oh,
click a
okay,
button.
yeah. Of course,
Yeah.
I implemented the oopsie error, so I need to create an issue now. Okay.
Yeah, which is interesting that that's not coming through, because I wish I could show
It's
you what I see. Uh, and essentially, so can you on Yeah, it's really interesting that you can't, because it says Webpack internal activity.tsx and get tree
Yeah,
map data. Like you should be able to see code if you've got
yeah,
source maps enabled. So if you go back to
yeah,
your your code locally, VS Code,
yeah, yeah.
is there a file, search for like source map or something, and
I know the source maps locally are there because like if there's no actual source map file, but like if I come to the browser here, like for example, like when I was debugging before, let's go edit. So this is the source maps. So like this, because like obviously you can't run TypeScript or JSX in the browser. So
mm,
I do have the source maps during development for sure. Um, but
because they are more useful in production as well, because you want
yeah.
to see, you want to be able to quickly glance. This is the good thing about Sentry and this kind of tool. Like you want to be able to quickly glance at the line of code that caused the error, to understand like who to triage it to, or okay, what kind of
Oh,
fix
wait.
is this going to be? Oh, there you go. Well, that
Okay,
actually is
there's
inside node modules though, but this is kind of what you can
yeah.
get in your app if you
Okay.
have source maps
There's got to be
enabled. And
some,
you,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, because using the
Yeah.
Next.js wizard, I'll tell you what to do. I'll tell you what, can we try something? Can we
Yeah, let's do it.
try running the wizard again, like
Yeah,
the
for sure.
Next.js wizard? So,
Cool.
and even though I made a video about this, I can't remember the command. Uh,
Well, you can always watch your
so
video when you don't.
I'm going to put the command in the chat,
Yeah.
and let's see if that changes anything. So
Yeah.
reset your repo to fresh, and then see if that,
Okay.
what changes that brings us.
Okay. All right. The only thing I have that's changed is the what we added in the init, the debug, but I can do a full reset.
Yeah,
Uh,
you can remember that one.
yeah. Okay. All right. So let's run the CLI here.
So I wonder if there's been some updates and things
Oh, I'm sure there has
since it was
because
done.
this was installed a while ago. So
Yeah.
okay. You have uncommitted or tracked files. Okay, let me just undo that. That's from that's from that .env thing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's close that. Okay. Do you want to continue? Yes. Okay. Um, are you using Sentry SaaS or self-hosted? We're using SaaS. Okay. Yes, I already have a Sentry account. Okay. It's
It's logged you in
okay.
automatically because you're logged in your browser.
Yeah, I see it over there. Okay. Login complete. Select. Okay. Yes, that's right. The Sentry package is already installed. Do you
Yes.
want to update? Yes. npm. Side note, but this is a very nice experience in the CLI.
It is, isn't it?
Um,
It's actually,
yeah,
I agree with you, and I'm not just saying that because I work for Sentry. It's very good.
yeah. Cool. All right. Yes. Uh, yes. 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 Do you want to create an example page to test? We could,
Don't do that.
if you
Well,
want.
I mean, maybe you could,
Don't care.
maybe if you want, yeah, maybe that might help because you've got a lot of code in the other pages we're trying to test.
Yeah, there's definitely other stuff. Yes, I'm using.
No, you're probably not, because you're just using. Oh, I don't know. Yes, you
Oh,
probably are, but I don't know. I can't remember why they asked that question.
okay. There's,
I think
but
it
yeah,
might be
we can
about
skip it for now.
environment variables. I think it's about environment
Okay.
variables,
All right. So there was definitely
which you're
some
probably wrong.
changes. So let's take a peek in here.
So what I like about
And
this new wizard is, especially when you're setting up a brand new project, you get an example front end error implementation, an example API route error as well. So they just give you pages to show you how it, that shows you how it works.
okay. Oh yeah, here we go. So here's the example page. Uh, oh, whoops. Let me get out of there. Okay. So, okay. So, okay, that's just basic Next.js stuff. And then
and
Okay.
there's just a
There's a
button.
okay. The uh I know you're still new at Sentry, so I'm just curious. Do you know what start span does? It wraps.
So spans in Sentry are um, like I believe a group of transactions. Let me get the proper and
I'll
you
just
can then like trace through things in a span. Yeah, this is it.
okay.
So the span, like a span is specifies a series of timed application events that have a start and an end time.
Okay.
And a transaction, so which is like an action or something that has a cascade effect of all the different things that happen, may contain 0 or more spans. And spans
Okay,
in the
I
list don't
see.
have to be ordered. They're ordered by start and end time on the server. So you can open a span, you can do lots of things, and you can like stop the span, and then you can use
Okay.
that to like profile and understand more about like the performance of your application and where bottlenecks are and what database
Okay.
calls you could make quicker and things like that.
Okay, I
So
got you.
again,
Yeah, yeah. So,
it's another manual way to use Sentry very intentionally as a
okay.
tool to help you understand where you can improve your product.
Okay. Uh,
There's lots of different words in Sentry. There's like spans, transactions, traces, and they all mean very different things in the
okay.
context of being in the same scope.
Okay, so I'm curious what it added. Okay, so it looks like I don't know if these are default settings or if whoever configured this originally tweaked it. It looks like
Yeah, so
I'm
you don't want to. So again, traces sample rate. So basically, when you have like, say you have like a million users,
yeah.
and you have a bug in your app and you've got a million people on that same page at one time, you're not going to want to send a million instances of that error to
Yeah.
Sentry. So the traces sample rate takes a sample rate of all of the things that are happening. So
Oh, okay,
in
okay.
production, what somebody configured the open source app to do was only send 25% to sample 25% of the events and then aggregate them in your app and your issues to show you
Okay.
what's going on. So it helps with like, is ingestion the right word? Basically, it'll just sample 25% of the events.
Okay.
You might want to leave it at 100 for dev or when you're just starting out, but you wouldn't recommend to keep it at 1 in
Okay.
production.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And this kind of ties back into what you were saying about depending on your plan too. So like,
Yes,
I mean, I
exactly.
guess, okay, ignore transactions, middleware. This we had, I think. I remember
Yeah, I'd
seeing
probably put that
this.
back in. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, the edge and the server, it's probably similar changes. So the next config, if we look here, what changed in here? Okay, I think it just updated most things. Silent true. Oh, suppresses. You were talking about source map, so
Yeah,
suppresses
that's
source map uploading logs
interesting.
during build. So maybe,
Hang on, let me see. Let me just check. I mean, kind of
yeah,
silent.
because if I
Silent.
compare, uh, let's see here. Did we
Suppresses
have
all
silent
logs.
before?
I think that just suppresses logs. It doesn't suppress. Oh,
Oh,
that's in the
okay.
Webpack plugin options. Uh, I think
Okay, I
silent is
think,
fine.
yeah, because if, let me go over that again. Silent. Basically what this is telling me is I got to spend a bit of time looking at how we're configured with Sentry.
Yeah,
Not a bad thing. It's just like I mean, know your tools,
yeah,
right? So,
that's
um,
it.
okay. So if true, all logs are suppressed. Okay.
And that's logs, and
Uh,
that's fine.
yeah,
I would leave that there so it's not so noisy. It's the source maps we want to try and
yeah.
Yeah, and
Or
apparently
sorry.
Next.js does it like automatically, but
Oh, hide
I
source maps true.
from
So this should be
generated client
false.
bundles. But wait, that's a generated.
Because that would
Let me
be
let me check
the
that one.
client bundles, I'm guessing, are the ones like next, because Next.js is still using Webpack, so it's probably the chunks that it generates.
Mm,
Let me see here.
so
I got
use a hidden source, but depending on your deployment setting, adding Sentry Next.js to your app may cause your source code to be visible in browser dev tools when it wasn't before. This happens because of the default behavior of Webpack source map built in DevTool. To prevent that, you can use hidden source map rather than source map, which will prevent your built files from containing a source mapping URL comment, thus making source maps invisible to the browser. I think you want to keep true in there,
yeah,
because that's nothing to do with I don't think that's anything to do with.
hide source maps from generated. Well, I think it might, because usually what happens is like when you get like the obfuscated code generated, you'll get like all the Webpack noise, and then at the bottom
Yeah.
it's the source map URL as a comment, and that's
Yes.
so when you open up the dev tools, it doesn't run in the browser directly, but as soon as you open up the dev tools, it'll kick in. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's what it's saying, is to not I almost feel like it should be the opposite, but
I mean, you could
anyways,
you
like
could try that as an experiment, but what's
yeah,
what's weird is that
but it's for
you're not
Webpack
getting
only.
source maps. Yeah, you're not getting source maps in Sentry
Mm.
for your actual code.
Yeah, and we just reran this, so like if we let's try and rerun this in our dev. What's it not liking? With oh, okay, it's just declared twice, because I think when I reran the CLI, it just added it again. So okay, yeah, so there's that one, and then there's this one. Oh, yeah, okay, so we don't need this one.
Do you have you have that twice now because
Yeah,
you've
that's what
got with
I'm
Sentry
just double checking.
context. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
You've
if I
got like
do
the
this
whole
again,
with Sentry config twice.
yeah, okay, so I should take the last one. So
Yeah.
with. Oh, okay, I see what it did. It did this one,
Mm.
and with. Okay, let me just, I gotta zoom this out for a sec because I can't see the whole thing.
Yeah,
So,
good call. Good call.
uh, I'm normally very conscious of showing the whole, like zooming in so people can actually see things. But okay, so with Sentry, so this is the new one. So we could probably take out this one, or you know what? I'll just comment it out for now. Okay, let's run this again.
But anyway, I'm glad you got to see how delightful the wizard was to use.
Yeah, no, it's definitely super helpful. And honestly, I I know I know we've ran into some hurdles, but I feel like a lot of that is like you were saying, is our app is actually logging a lot of errors that like we may or may not be aware of. So
Yeah,
there's that too. But like if we do this again here, I'll reload the page one more time and just see for fun. Um, but I think you're totally right that we're probably being throttled because of the plan potentially. So,
it's
oh, of
interesting that we
course.
couldn't see that in the network tab, but it might have just been
Yeah, I'm
filtering. I
gonna
don't know.
just grab that example again and go back to my edit page real quick and pop that back in. Okay, let's do that. Okay. Okay, there's the button. Okay, so I'm gonna throw, okay, through the error. Now let's go see. Yeah. I'm not confident it'll show up here based on, I think it's our plan, but yeah, so that's Oh, that's filtering on. Oopsie. Yeah, I I think it's just totally that we're being throttled
Yeah.
because we so apologies for that, folks. But all that to say though, like setting it up was very simple. Like I didn't set it up originally, but just running the CLI here got us up and running real quick. Um, I had to remove it twice because I think I said just append it. But getting that all set up seems pretty straightforward. And like I was saying, I got to dig into the tooling here a bit more and understand things. But there's like action items for me are definitely setting some tags. You were saying I can create custom dashboards, so I should probably have a production dashboard as well as our beta deployment have a
Yeah,
dashboard there.
that could be useful.
And the start span seems interesting. I guess if you're testing a flow of something, you want to kind of
Yeah,
encapsulate it all in there. So like maybe like a
absolutely.
login flow or something like that. Maybe or onboarding would be a good one too, in terms of capturing that whole.
That would be very interesting. Yes, you can start at the
Yeah,
very beginning and then see how far people get. You could even like measure drop off and things
yeah,
like, is Sentry an analytics tool or is it it's kind of an interesting like crossover. You could actually do quite a lot of like creative stuff with
yeah,
labels and custom spans and things like that, if you really wanted. And there is something
yeah.
coming out quite soon, that will help you do even more with that as well. Stay tuned.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's really a case of be intentional with what you want to send, if you don't want to use up all your plan as well,
Yeah,
and especially if you're just trying it out, because it does come with a free plan with some limits. And
yeah.
there's actually so much you can do. There's so much, and it's like available for so many programming languages. It's all SDK based, and you can even just add it to a browser JavaScript project as well. You can add it to a single index or HTML file
Yeah,
and track errors on that if you really wanted. So
yeah,
it's but like you say, know your tools. It's worth it. There's a lot of documentation, but also the SDKs guide you through it, and there's IntelliSense on the completion in your IDEs and things like that. But if you've
yeah,
got any questions, there's a huge Discord community as well. Like everything's open source. You can
yeah,
submit issues to the repos if you can't work something out, or you can suggest a docs improvement as well. And it's just a thriving open source community, given that we're on the topic of open source as well.
hmm
And you can make it what you want to make it by contributing to the GitHub issues and saying what you want to see. But it's hugely
yeah,
powerful, and to use it to its full potential, it's kind of like trying to use Photoshop or Blender or
yeah,
Premiere Pro, right? You have to sit there and learn it. And whilst it can give you so much out of the box, if you really want to make the most out of it for your applications, you need to uh, craft it to the experience that you need.
yeah. No, totally. And yeah, this is super helpful for me because, like I said, I'm totally gonna chat with Brandon and some of the other engineering about just getting those dashboards up. And we clearly have a lot of noise in there because, like, I wasn't even aware until you're like, oh, that's local host stuff getting thrown up there. So definitely want to shut that local host for sure, development mode, but keep keep beta in production. That's definitely important to us. I'm even wondering like deployment previews, those deployments we probably don't want it on there too. Maybe we
Hmm.
could keep it. I guess have to see, but definitely on the beta and the production branch. And um yeah, I've just got to dig into it. Like you said, there's just a it's like anything, your brain hurts for a bit until you kind of have
Yeah.
that aha moment or whatever. So, but
And
yeah,
I would
cool, cool.
love to see what you do with it. Like come back on again and
Yeah,
see how far you've got, and then see how much further we can like push it and optimize it for your setup as well after you've got like the basic stuff configured.
yeah, no, yeah, definitely. I definitely invited you to my house with all the dirty laundry everywhere because there was tons of errors everywhere. So, but yeah, no, that sounds great. And definitely gonna do that. I'm gonna create an issue about just tweaking our Sentry configuration for now. And yeah, aside from that, yeah, no, thanks again for taking the time to hang out today. I know it's a little later in the UK. What, it's like almost 9 p.m. your time, I think, or
Almost
10?
8 p.m. Yeah, it's all good. I'm just
Oh,
gonna
okay,
lie
okay.
down now. Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks again, and thanks everybody in the
Thank you.
chat, and thank you for the trolling as well, and much appreciated. And yeah, next week I'm gonna be hanging out with Mark Erickson, who's a maintainer on the Redux project. We're gonna dig into that. It's been a while since I've used Redux, so be interesting to talk about that and kind of where it's gone. I don't, did you ever use Redux, or I know you were more into Vue, I think. Is that right? Yeah.
No, no, I've done React more in my career. I used
Okay.
Redux in last time in 2018.
Okay, yeah. That was about the time I
Yeah,
stopped using it too, yeah. And it was so anyways, we're gonna discuss that because like I remember, I'm sure you remember too, there was a lot of boilerplate with Redux, and I think a lot of that's changed, so I'm gonna find out. But anyways, tune in for that next week, folks, and thanks again, Salma. And if you don't mind just staying on for 1 sec, and
sure
everybody
thing.
else, thanks again for hanging.